Hello, my fellow Americans. 'Tis I, the rumpled one. Anchor babies. See, Don Trump said it. Jeb Bush said it. And I guess because they're saying it now, anchor babies is somehow a derogatory term. It's considered racist. It's really funny how some people just want to hijack the language. If you talk about something they don't like, they just call you a racist. So they just dismiss you, attack you, and don't deal with the issue at hand. Anchor babies. What is an anchor baby? It's when somebody comes to this country, usually illegally, so they can have a kid, so they have an anchor. And the thing is, with Obama at the helm, from what I understand, you have to go out of your way to get deported. If they say if you're not within a tank of gas of the border, chances are if you're illegal, you're not going to get deported. Doesn't matter if you get caught in a crime, if you're a couple hundred miles from the border, it's against the law for local law enforcement to even call immigration, from what I understand. I mean, that's ridiculous. We already have the laws on the book to enforce, about immigration, but these laws aren't enforced. That's why we have a problem. When our leaders won't enforce the laws of the country, that is tyranny. And now, we've got a federal judge that says Hillary, didn't follow certain things, but people are saying, oh no, she didn't do anything wrong. And they say, well, Colin Powell had a private email server and nobody said anything there. But then again, I don't think anybody found that Colin Powell was leaking secrets or Colin Powell was doing favors to people that donated to his foundations. I don't even think he has a foundation. At least they had, because if he had, I'm sure they would have brought it out. So you see, my fellow Americans, once again, we're just being hijacked by the media, by these people who claim to be looking out for everybody and our interests, when the only interest they're looking out for is their own special interest. Basically, they want to take from your hip national bank and spread the wealth. I just don't understand what these people are thinking. I just don't. And how they come to these conclusions. Some of my friends are afraid that if a Republican gets in, they're going to bring God into the government. Well, Ben Carson had a good argument against that one. He was saying that if you look at the founding documents, they all mentioned God and the Creator. So maybe if we brought some God back into things, then maybe it would be a little more righteous. We wouldn't have some of the problems we have today. We wouldn't have people wanting to take from one group and give to another. We'd have people who were raising their kids to be responsible as opposed to dependent. I don't know. What is this world coming to? It's kind of funny how some of the things I think and say, I can remember my father thinking, 20, 30 years ago. I guess that's maybe what happens as you go around the sun, 30, 40, 50 times. You get something called wisdom. Something else called experience. Little knowledge. And you can see these things. But for some strange reason, the people elected to office, they don't seem to learn from past mistakes. They don't seem to learn from history. Instead, what some of these people want to do is they want to rewrite history. And we've got how many wars and conflicts going on in the globe? And we've got North and South Korea rattling sabers. I mean, what's that going to... What would happen if those guys start to really go at it? I mean, is the U.S. going to jump in? And then would China and Russia jump in against the U.S.? I mean, it's just a ticking time bomb. It's just a mess. I mean, we've got ISIS desecrating temples. I mean, this is 21st century man. Doesn't seem to be doing much better than primitive caveman. Maybe even doing worse. My fellow Americans, all I can say is I hope that our next president isn't a career politician. We've got a long way to go. We got over a year before the election. So I guess the deck's going to be shuffled 2 or 3 times. We'll see who makes the cut and who doesn't. Now, the one good thing about Donald Trump being in the race is he's bringing up subjects that most of the other politicians shy away from. They don't want to go on record as to what their position is. But Trump's out there leading the charge. He's like, you know, let's build a fence. Let's keep out the illegals. In fact, let's round them up and deport them. You know, let's stop this anchor baby nonsense. I mean, we all know what the 14th Amendment of the Constitution says, but as it was pointed out, when they wrote it, they weren't expecting people to come here and do this anchor baby stuff because of all the freebies that our government is handing out. Because back then, the government wasn't handing out freebies. Back then, government wasn't restricting us either. So you see, my fellow Americans, it's time to wake up and smell the tyranny.